back in session of the council are present, members of our jury and our alternates are present. I understand one of the jurors wanted to move up to one of the other seats.
Can I?
Yes?
Thank you. It's hard for me to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder why.
Put it on the pulpy to get right.
Welcome to the fun. Thank you very much.
No problem. And for the record, that was juror in seat number 2 is moved up to the front row. And Mr. McGee, you may resume your examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Dr. Gray, I'm going to show you exhibit, mark exhibit 390. You recognize this exhibit?
I believe this was the same exhibit we were looking at before lunch, right? Oh. I believe this was the same exhibit we were looking at before lunch, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
And which exhibit is this?
Well, I don't know your numbering system, but this is...
What's it show?
Let's do.
You told me this was the bottom of Joe's legs, is that correct? Oh, you know what? Would you like me to look at my report and see what number it is, and then I can tell you what I saw?
Yes.
I can do that. That does not help me. Hold on.
8-9?
It's 8-9. So 8-9 is, yeah, that's Joe. Thank you.
And Joe Senior.
Joe Senior, yes.
So those would be the shin bones, that's the common phrase would be, of Joseph McStay Senior.
Those are the tibia and fibula of Joseph McStay.
And both of those show a type of weathering.
Yes.
And they are recovered outside the grave.
Yes.
And that would be consistent with animal activity at the feet of Mr. McStay.
Yes.
And with animal activity being at the feet of Mr. McStay, it'd be consistent maybe Joey Jr. was near his feet as well.
I don't know, but there was a large enough hole that could have been.
Now you talked about there being a depression at the graves when you observed them before the excavation started. You remember that part of your testimony?
Yes.
Now, what are some of the causes that could be for a depression at a gravesite?
So typically when you bury an individual, there is a displacement of soil that's equal to the size of the body. Remember how before I told you that you can't put the dirt back the same way you took it out.
Right.
So the displacement of dirt is about equal to the size of the body. So typically, unless if someone puts all of the dirt back, you have a mound. And then as the body decomposes, that mound sinks until it's level or near level. If someone does not want to draw attention to this hole, doesn't mound it up and spreads the dirt around, and the dirt is even, after the body decomposes, the overall area will depress. Essentially, the same volume goes out. Also, dirt in general will compact a little bit more with water and stuff like that.
Now, you said that there showed signs of animal activity, or kind of like digging.
Yes.
What you saw before the graves were starting to be excavated, could you make a determination of the depression was all from digging, or is it from the drop in the level of soil, or a combination of both?
It could be a combination of both. And again, both because of water and because of decomposition.
Thank you. The last exhibit I want to go over with you is exhibit 369. And you recognize this exhibit?
I do.
And that is the jawbone of Summer McStay,
That is the mandible to Summer McStay, yeah.
which would be the lower jaw section
You
first.
have an upper jaw too, so it's a mandible.
Okay. And when this was recovered from the gravesite, it was in different pieces.
It was in 3 pieces, but they were co-located.
And so I'll zoom in slightly to the mandible, as you like to call it. That shows the 2 fractures in the mandible inside this exhibit.
Yes.
And that'd be one kind of near the eye tooth, between eye tooth and molar on the bottom, going pretty much down towards center?
There's one lateral near the canine towards the, essentially it goes down like this, and then the other one is behind the molar headed towards the rings of the mandible. The thing that goes up in the back of the jaw.
And did you look at the fracture to see if you can see signs of fluid decomposition?
I did.
And what does that tell you from what you saw from the imagery?
This occurred at perimortem. The fracture occurred perimortem.
So meaning at the time?
At or around the time of death.
And now this type of fracture, you said bones can be softer or more flexible in children, but in adults they get more firm. Would this be the mandible? Would this be a firm bone?
This one's really solid. It doesn't have a lot of give because the compact bone has layers. The outside layer, if you will, the shell, is thicker.
Now, is this the kind of fracture that could result from someone punching somebody?
No.
What kind of instrument would you say would be consistent that you found at the grave site to cause this type of injury?
It's consistent with that sledgehammer type item.
Now, we don't see any impact that you described from like when the skull, because it was empty behind, correct?
You mean you don't see a tool mark kind of thing? No, I don't see a tool mark.
But this would be consistent with her being hit in the face with a sledgehammer.
Yes.
Now, what side of the face is that on?
That's on the left side of the face.
So the person doing it is probably doing it with their right hand with their facing it.
Objection,
I don't have
speculation.
any idea. I'm sorry.
Overrule that answer will remain.
Now, none of the teeth are missing, I noticed in the picture. Were they missing when you found them in the grave?
I'm sorry, you mean do we add teeth?
Are the teeth put back into place just for this photograph?
I don't think so. I don't actually remember that. That's something the dentist might have done, but I don't think so.
From your memory, it was found with the fractures and those three pieces with the teeth actually
Embedded in their roots. Yeah, that is according to my memory, yes.
nothing further.
Thank you.
Anything on redirect?
Yes. I wanted to talk to you, Dr. Gray, just for a couple of minutes about the time frames that we keep kind of throwing out, the 6 months, the 2 years, and things like that. When you actually were present at the autopsies, did you have information that the last time this family had been seen alive was at or around February 4th of 2010?
No, I had been given information that there was a potential name to this family, and I appeared to be the only one in the room who didn't know anything else about it.
If you were provided that information, that February 4th, 2010 date, would that be consistent with the remains that you saw on scene in 2013 in terms of time frames?
Absolutely.
Now, even though you weren't present during the entire excavation of both graves, when you were at the autopsies, did you notice if any material, either bones or material that was adhered to the individuals, did you notice if anything had been compromised?
No, definitely not.
No, you didn't notice or know nothing had been compromised.
I'm sorry, nothing had been compromised to the best of what I saw.
Thank you. There were some questions posed to you about how did you know that Joe Jr. was on top of Joe Sr. in the grave? Do you recall those questions?
I do.
What was it about that you observed that led you to that belief?
So, unfortunately, we don't have I don't have a picture of grave A, but the area that was exposed was larger than what we saw in grave B. So we saw this depression and some bones sticking out in grave B with a little bit of fabric, and in grave A there was a larger hole above the body of Joseph Sr. And it was my assumption that the remains of Joe Jr. were on top.
I would Objection to strike is speculative.
And you say assumption, is there a difference between an assumption and a conclusion?
A conclusion would be I had a fingernail there or something like that, as opposed to I have a child-sized hole above it, which makes it an assumption. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I don't want to say clarify what I know.
The objection's overruled, the answer and explanation removed.
So when you talk about, you just mentioned something about a child-sized hole with respect to, that's with respect to grade A, is that correct?
Correct.
Can you describe, in terms of the dimensions of the hole, was it different at different levels?
Yes.
Okay. So when you say a child-sized hole, can you explain that?
The overall grade was actually slightly smaller than you would expect for a full-grown man to be in. And the top portion towards the head area was still completely covered. And then where we find closer to where the legs were recovered, we then find this impressions, indentation that goes down, I don't remember how many inches, but it was something between 14 and 18, somewhere in there, which is the approximate size of what you expect to see when you see a child burial of a child under 8.
So there appeared to be a separation.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
That's correct.
Okay. When you looked at the remains in the autopsy, did any of the sets of remains include a full set of bones that you would find in the hand?
Not that I recall.
If you find bones, or if you were to find bones that relate to the hand, based upon your background, training, and experience, can those provide some distinct information to you with respect to the remains and maybe any trauma that occurred?
I would object that's irrelevant since no hands were found.
Overruled, answer.
They could. Sometimes tissue damage doesn't go all the way to the bone. So you could have a defensive wound that doesn't compromise the bone itself. And also there's identifying information in regards to a person. So there's a DNA or fingernails and things like that. And sometimes, people may have a broken finger that may help us or something like that.
Okay. Now, we were talking earlier about the fracture that you observed to Joe McStay Sr.'s tibia.
Yes.
And we were talking about the level of force. So there were questions posed to you about the level of force that the level of force that would be required to actually cause that type of fracture. Can you talk to us a little bit about the level of force that would have been required?
Okay, so in any type of force injury, we have direction, speed, and the size of the object. And so when we see injuries that are like that on a tibia, we typically see it with, it's dispersed, so it's not like a blade or like the size of a cricket bat. It's at least dispersed over several inches. We actually first started taking note of them with car bumpers in the early 40s, the metal car bumpers. That was about the size of where people would get hit in the shins and they, in vehicular accidents versus pedestrians. So the kind of injury that is exhibited there is actually really well documented over 60, 70, 80 years. And it takes quite a bit of forward momentum to cause a tibia to bend like that and split.
Okay. And how about with respect to the head trauma that we observed? Does that also take that same level of force to cause that level of trauma?
No, actually, heads are a lot more fragile. Depending on where you hit them, you can break them quite easily.
Okay, and how about the fractured rib that we observed?
Also, probably one of the easiest parts of your body to fracture. The jaw was that was a little harder.
From the fracture on the jaw, are you able to ascertain anything with respect to the direction of the blow?
Yes, that flow comes from the outside, and probably slightly under. If it had hit on the, if it had been coming down, as the attorney was pointing out, it probably would have fractured teeth.
Okay.
But coming from the bottom, there's a almost like a barrier here, not a barrier, barrier's not the right word.
Let me see
just like
if we can
there.
actually put that exhibit up.
360 now?
Yeah, do you have it?
I can.
Because I noticed you were making some motions on your face, so I think it'd probably be easier for
It would be
you.
much easier.
Okay, here we
so
go.
if you look at the base right here, so you're looking from your own position right here on that's actually this is your chin. This bone, and you can actually see it in this picture, is much thicker around this border area, right?
Okay.
It's very dense and it's very thick, and it actually withstands quite a lot of abuse. And if the individual had been punched, for example, typically the jaw doesn't break here, the jaw breaks here where it's thinner. And we don't see that. So what we expect to see is that there's a blow with some distributed surface area around here, and that this fracture goes through what is one of the weaker points right there, but it's still not weak like it is up here. This is still pretty strong. And here, that's actually that takes a lot of force.
You're indicating the fracture on the
On the
lower
front.
right as we're looking at the photograph.
Yes, because right here is what is called the mandibular symphysis, and that's where your jaw comes together. As a child, your two pieces fuse, and once they fuse there, it's super strong. So you have, it's like steel reinforced concrete. So we have a blow that's here, and the break happening here indicates that there's a great deal of force that is being applied at that area.
And you're indicating the blow
The
coming
blow is here.
to the lower right of the photograph as we're looking at it would actually be the lower left of the person's jaw.
Correct.
So is it your opinion that these, because we see basically two pieces that are separated in this jaw, right?
Yes.
Is it your opinion that that is from potentially one event or
Yes.
one strike?
That is one blow.
I want to talk to you just a little bit more about this concept of perimortem. I'm sure you probably hear this a lot, judging from the smile on your face. So we have antemortem, that's before death, right?
Correct.
And you can tell something is an antemortem injury, how?
From healing.
So there's actual physical evidence of healing that you observe.
Correct. And it's more or less depending on how much time has passed.
And then let's go to the easier side of that, which is postmortem, which is an injury that occurs after death, right?
Correct.
And how is it that you can tell if something is postmortem?
There's no healing, obviously, and typically the decompositional fluids are going to leak into that area.
Okay, so we have this concept somewhere in between antemortem and postmortem that's perimortem.
Correct.
Are you able to ascertain, and if I understand you correctly, with perimortem, can you sometimes see a little bit of evidence of healing from the staining?
Well, no, not from the staining, from the, this picture is actually a really good picture to show you.
Okay.
If you look right here, I'm pointing to the center, near the center of the jaw. If you look at that edge right there, do you see how sharp it is, how it's all sharp and jagged?
Yes.
Right. When healing starts happening, the first thing that happens is these edges become a little bit blurred as the osteoblasts, the bone building cells, start working. So there's bone cells that break the broken ones down, basically. It's a recycling system. So the old cells are being taken away and the new cells are being built. And when the new cells are being built, it kind of smooths the edges. They're not sharp like glass anymore. It's almost like they look sanded. And like for example, in this case, we have no healing. The edges are entirely sharp. Now, you wouldn't want to do that like this, looking at it from a macro perspective. You'd want to put that on a hand lens. And if you have the ability to use a microscope for cross-sectioning, you can actually look at it at the cellular level. But usually within a very short period of time, we can start seeing those edges blurred with a hand lens.
Did you use a hand lens when you looked at this particular fracture?
I did.
And could you tell if there had been any blurring of the edges like you
I did
described?
not see any healing at all.
So are you able to pin down with respect to this type of a fracture in the jaw with this concept of perimortem, how much time are we looking at before you would start to see some evidence of healing in an injury like this?
Oh, actually, like this one, you'd see it within an hour or 2 hours. You'd start seeing the beginnings of healing. This is a very traumatic break.
If I can just have you review and I had previously asked you about whether or not you recovered any significant portion of hands on these individuals. So I'm going to approach with a few exhibits and we'll go through them just to clarify that. And this is exhibit 350, which is Joe Jr. Are there any hands present in that?
No.
And exhibit 542, which I believe is Gianni. Were there any hands present in that?
Yes.
Okay, and how much of the hands do you actually have?
A portion of one hand.
Okay. Exhibit 551, which is Summer. Were there any hands present in that? Sorry.
I don't see in this photograph.
Okay, and then showing you 388, 389, and 390, which are of Joe McStay Sr. Were there any hands present in that?
Yes.
And how much of a portion of hands do you have?
Looks like about 30% on the left. And okay, there we go. And about 80% on the right.
Okay, and did you observe any trauma to the hands?
No.
Okay. Just one moment, Your Honor. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything on recross?
A couple questions, Your Honor. In regards to the jaw that was fractured, would that be a downward strike or an upward strike?
My opinion is it's an upward strike.
So from below coming up this way?
Yes.
So the person would have to be in front of them.
Not
Objection.
necessarily.
Speculation?
Sustained.
If you're, well, sorry. Exhibit 388. Again, the overall picture of the upper body of Joseph McStay Sr. If we'll see that broadcasted now.
Thank you.
We see again his left shoulder blade and left upper arm are bleached.
Yes.
Would that be indicative that he was likely laying on his right side with the left arm being closest to the top where animal activity can remove those parts?
Objection, speculation?
Overroach cancer, she has an opinion.
No, not necessarily. Where they dig down is whatever pleases them that day.
Would it be inconsistent for him to be on his left side inside the grave where everything else that could have been removed is on top of the left shoulder?
It would be inconsistent for him to be on his left side, but that doesn't mean that he was on his right side.
But it's also consistent with it, though, is it not?
Yes.
And you were asked about trauma, signs of trauma to the hands of Joseph McStay. That's only to the bones, correct?
That's correct.
Because there was no flesh to.
There was not.
have nothing further on behalf of the people, Your Honor.
Let me clarify one or two things. You indicated that you would expect to see some signs of healing as quickly as within 1 to 2 hours of an injury.
That's correct, as long as you're looking with the correct lens.
Okay. And then there's a period for antemortem that you look for certain signs that you can clearly say an injury was, postmortem.
So
Correct.
that's what you're asking me is that we can see that it's beyond the perimortem period. Is that what you're
Right.
asking? Yes, although clearly it depends case to case.
Okay, I guess what I'm asking is kind of a window. If there's an injury that occurs, let's say, within an hour before death, up to the time of death, you really can't tell.
You can tell, again, with the right examination and the right kinds of tools and the right kinds of lenses, you can see the beginnings of healing. But once that person has passed, all of that stops.
Right.
So you can actually see some signs that, we're talking about within an hour. We're not talking about within 20 minutes or 10 minutes or something. We're talking about within an hour, you can see some signs, yes.
Okay, so if you see no signs of healing, that would be an indication to you that at most the injury occurred less than an hour before death.
Correct.
Okay. And then for postmortem, how far can you go to say from perimortem to definitely postmortem?
Well, that's going to be situational and dependent on, the types of fractures and
So in this case,
I think I've said what I can reasonably say. That makes sense?
again, and if I recall, that was within hours?
Correct.
Okay. So when you say something is perimortem, you're saying that the injury occurred sometime within an hour before death up to maybe an hour or so after death, generally.
Generally, at or around, that gives us our at or around window. And some of this is specifically on the bones themselves that were broken.
Sure, and we're just on generality, I'm not trying to pin you down to a minute.
I would say not
So,
forever and not in all cases, but
Right.
in that spot, yeah.
so generally if there's an injury that occurred more than an hour before death, you would expect to start to see some signs of healing.
Yeah, I would expect to start seeing some signs.
And if there was an injury that occurred more than an hour or so after death, you would probably be able to classify that as postmortem, I suppose.
Not necessarily, because once the death has occurred, then we have, our decompositional process, and that can be fast or slow depending on, temperature and humidity and all of these other conditions. So that's where it gets kind of gray.
Okay. The other question I had is, was it from being there at the scene and just observing the two graves, was there animal activity as to both graves?
Yes.
And was there items from both graves that appear to have been removed from the graves by animal activity?
Yes.
Okay. Can that affect, if you have a body and objects placed in a grave and buried,
Yes.
am I correct in assuming they're going to stay in pretty much the same location if they're not disturbed?
Yeah, they are. You mean like will they get dragged out and then reburied?
No. If they're not disturbed at all.
They'll stay exactly the way they
Right.
are.
Okay.
I mean, they'll still decompose until they become friable, but...
They're not going to change positions.
Oh, no, I hope not.
Okay. But once, if you have animal activity,
They can change it.
that can change the position.
Correct, context is lost.
Okay. depth of the two graves, do you know if the depth was relatively uniform?
I don't know that, what would you define as uniform?
Reasonably close.
Reasonably close to go, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In other words, there wasn't, going from north to south or east to west, there wasn't an obvious, one was deeper or more shallow.
Joseph's was, Joseph, I guess both Joseph's, Joseph Senior's, was a little bit deeper, but it was also a little bit more uphill. So you can't really see the elevation in this picture, but there was like a sand, like a berm, and he was closer into the berm than grave B was.
Okay.
And so grave B was a little more shallow, but I think it had a little less dirt to work with.
My question is, if, let's say, if there was a big disparity, let's say the north side of the grave was 12 inches deep, and the south side of the grave was 18 inches deep.
Well, I wouldn't consider that a big disparity, I'm sorry.
Okay. But that would affect the relative depth at which you might find certain bones,
Yes, of
correct?
course.
And that's my question here. Was there any kind of significant disparity with regard to the floor of the grave that would affect the depth of bones in various locations in the grave?
I wasn't present to get all the way to the floor, so I can't speak to what the floor
Okay.
looked like. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. Anything further by your side?
None for the defense.
Rick has a question.
If permitted. Does the depth of the grave at excavation,
People would object to Mr. Hines asking any questions.
I'm sorry?
People would object to Mr. Hines asking any questions.
the people aren't objecting.
I mean, defense. I'm sorry.
You can ask one question, one brief area, which is an exception to the rule of multiple attorneys asking the same witness questions.
Can I go next?
Oh,
Based on the judge's question, does the depth recorded after completion of excavation, is that necessarily consistent with the original, or can you tell whether it's consistent with the original depth at burial, or is there a variation?
It can be, but in this case, that wasn't something that we could ascertain because we didn't hit sterile soil. So sterile soil is when you hit something that's never been done before. That was not the case to my understanding, and also from whatever I saw.
So you cannot tell?
Not in this case.
Thank you.
Defense, anything?
No, you're.
Either defense, any defense? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gray. Any objections to Dr. Gray being excused?
No, sir.
Thank you for your attendance, and you are excused. Make sure you don't take any of our exhibits with you.
I won't take any of your exhibits, but I take it all.
But you can take all of your demonstration items.
Thank you.
And people have your next witness here.
Actually, Your Honor, we'd like to at this time publish 584, which was the interview with Detective DeGaulle and the defendant.
Okay, before we do that, there was a stipulation with regard to identities. Do we want to enter that now?
If you would like, your prerogative.
Sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, I told you that the general rule is the statements of the attorneys are not evidence. And that is more than a general rule, that's the rule. There is one exception to that, and that is when the attorneys stipulate or agree to certain facts. And in this case, with regard to the identity of the individuals that were recovered at the grave sites, the attorneys do stipulate. There is a written stipulation. I will read it to you. This stipulation is part of the evidence in the case for you to consider, the same as if witnesses were to have testified to this without any opposition or opposing evidence. So the prosecution and the defense stipulate to the following facts. 1, A mandible for the adult remains found in what has been identified as grave B was recovered on November 11th, 2013. San Bernardino County Coroner Investigator Robert Hunter took post-mortem dental x-rays at the scene of the mandible. 2. On November 13th, 2013, Robert Hunter contacted the California Department of Justice Missing and Unidentified Persons Unit and obtained ante-mortem dental x-rays of Summer McStay. On November 13th, 2013, Dr. Greg Golden, a qualified forensic odontologist, compared the x-rays of the mandible taken at the scene of the grave with the antemortem or before-death x-rays of Summer McStay. Dr. Golden confirmed the mandible found in grave B matched the dental records for Summer McStay. Dr. Golden positively identified the mandible taken from grave B as belonging to Summer McStay. 4. A mandible and maxilla for the adult remains found in what has been identified as grade A was recovered on November 11th, 2013. San Bernardino County Coroner Investigator Robert Hunter took post-mortem dental x-rays of the mandible and maxilla on November 13th, 2013. On November 13th, 2013, Robert Hunter contacted the California Department of Justice Missing and Unidentified Persons Unit and obtained ante-mortem or before-death dental x-rays of Joseph McStay, Sr. On November 13th, 2013, Dr. Greg Golden, a qualified forensic odontologist, compared the x-rays of the mandible taken from grade A with the before-death x-rays of Joseph McStay, Sr. Dr. Golden confirmed the mandible found in grade A matched the dental records of Joseph McStay. Dr. Golden positively identified the mandible from grade A as belonging to Joseph McStay. 7. Samples of DNA in the form of teeth from the identified mandibles of Joseph McStay Sr. and Summer McStay were sent to the California Department of Justice DNA Laboratory. 8. A piece of skull identified as belonging to the remains of a child from grade A was sent to the California Department of Justice DNA Laboratory. 9. DNA was extracted from the skull from grade A and a profile obtained. 10. The DNA profile from the sample of the skull was compared to the DNA profiles of Summer McStay and Joseph McStay. 11. The skull from grade A was identified as belonging to a biological child of Joseph and Summer McStay, identified as Joseph McStay Jr. 12. A portion of the femur identified as belonging to the remains of a child from grade B was sent to the California Department of Justice DNA Laboratory. DNA was extracted from the portion of the femur obtained from grade B, and a DNA profile was obtained. The DNA profile from the sample of the femur from grade B was compared to the DNA profiles of Summer McStay and Joseph McStay Sr. The femur from grade B was identified as belonging to the biological child of Joseph and Summer McStay, identified as Gianni McStay. Counsel for both sides so stipulate?
Yes.
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 All right. So again, that stipulation is now part of the evidence for you to consider in the case, the same as if all of those witnesses were called and testified to that without any opposing evidence. Okay, and then you wanted to do what?
publish Exhibit 584, which was the interview that Detective DeGault did with the defendant on February 17, 2010, that he laid the foundation for during his testimony.
Okay, can we approach on that before it's played?
Sure. With the reporter.
Yeah.
Okay, Your Honor.
All right, we're back on the record in open court. So again, in a few minutes or a few moments, we're going to play a tape-recorded interview between Detective
DeGault,
and Mr. Merritt on
February 17, 2010.
February 17, 2010, which Detective DeGault testified about when he was here. A couple of, again, in listening to a recording, the evidence is what you can hear on the recording. The transcript that we're handing out to you is just an aid to help you follow and listen. Again, sometimes if something isn't real clear, if you see the words, you can say, oh yes, that is what is being said. But again, if even with that you can't make it out, you can't hear it, then it's not evidence unless there's some other testimony that indeed is what was said. Also a reminder, if you take any notes on the interview, make sure you take the notes in your notebook, not on the transcript, because once again, when we're done playing it, we're going to recover and take back the transcripts, and if you have any notes on it, you will lose those. And the counsel had already stipulated that the court reporter need not take down the attempt to transcribe it as it's being played, that the transcript was, and the exhibit number is what?
584B is what is being published.
It's here. Oh, thank you. I was lost.
Okay, are we ready? Okay.
February 17, 2010 at 16:26 hours. I'm with Detective Suzanne Fisk, and we are interviewing, you go by Chase, but your name is Charles? Correct. Okay, we're going to get all that personal information in just a second. We are in the clubhouse of his, is this condominium complex? Is that?
No, it's apartments.
Apartments. So his apartment complex in the Rancho Cucamonga area, and
It's 106 Church Street, Romeo.
what,
I have it in my car.
what his address is?
11660. So this would be the same address.
Yeah.
11660 Church Street.
Apartment 619.
Okay, let's start with your name, Charles.
Charles Ray Merritt, Merritt.
Date of birth.
5257.
Do you know your driver's license number?
N3535250.
Give me your address again.
I don't know this street address. 166.
When we talked between 11:54 and 12:18, he told me it was 11660 Church Street, number 619, Rancho Cucamonga, 91730.
Correct. You sound almost exactly like your voice. I mean, you look almost exactly like your voice would.
Oh, really? Kind of what you expected, huh? I think I'm not sure.
What was his zip again?
91730.
And are you co-owner or do you work for
I work.
Joseph?
Neither one. Joseph owns Earth Inspired Products. I own iDesign. completely different.
Okay, so what's your business? What's iDesign?
I manufacture custom indoor waterfalls.
Okay, and it's called iDesign, like the letter I?
The letter I,
iDesign.
ETSIGN.
And what do you use for an address? Your residence?
Yeah, my residence, because our shop, what we're doing now is manufacturing through another manufacturer. Another stainless steel shop. I job out everything now instead of.
So you're a middleman.
Pretty much. I still do hands-on. I go into the shop and I do all the lighting, and they just do all the stainless work and the welding and stuff like that.
Okay. Where is your shop? You say there's a shop.
Yeah, it's in Azusa.
What's the address there?
Let me call Dave and find out what the address is there. Just 1 minute. I don't remember his address. So.
Does Joseph ever visit the shop?
He has visited there.
Go ahead and keep calling.
Once, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm messaging. I can ask him right now how many times Joseph has come down.
He's going to do that right after that.
I'm retired. We've been working.
Oh, I can't imagine.
The case is real important to us. We really like to.
Well, I appreciate it because it's very important to all of us.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, what's your address there?
Yeah.
525 Clyde Bank, CLYDE.
CLY.
Yeah, I'm at
Bank Avenue.
11660 Church Street, which is an apartment complex.
City is Azusa? Yeah, the city is Azusa?
Well,
USA.
It's
9171.
I'm with you right now. So is there a patrol guy who could...
91702.
What's the phone number?
Phone number there? 66 812 4455. Yeah, I'm sitting with the detectives right now, so they're just getting all the information that they can. Thank you. If I need any other information, I'll give you a call. Thanks, bud. Bye.
I don't want what he's doing to scare you, what he's trying to do right now.
Look,
Well, you need to explain. I'm going to explain what you're doing so he doesn't make
Okay. Oh, okay.
I just want to explain to you.
I wasn't even listening to him. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I first want to assure you, I want to make this absolutely clear. You are not under arrest. You understand
Oh,
that?
I appreciate it.
And we're not here to arrest you because we realize you have a warrant. You were honest with me about that. I just want to make sure we're on.
No, I appreciate that.
Okay.
You know what? Let me assure you. I decided when I called you back that even if you did make the decision to arrest me, that it was worth getting this done in a timely manner. So I don't want to be, but
Well, and I appreciate that, but let me just say this, and I want to make it absolutely crystal clear. You are not under arrest.
I appreciate it.
You understand that, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And right now, what we're doing, and I want to explain, because he's talking about a patrol officer, and if I were in your shoes, I'd be afraid.
Oh, I would
We're
be
trying to-
hearing.
As we were coming up here, we were getting information on Summer's family, and what we'd like to do is start taking some DNA from some of the family members, so if we come up with, if we find anything or anyone, we have that to compare to.
Yeah.
We don't have any of that with us, so he's trying to make arrangements to get that to some people up here.
Yeah.
So if you see someone in uniform, I don't want to be...
I don't know.
Okay, I just want to...
I mean, my heart might have skipped a beat, and I appreciate you explaining it to me, but like I said, I mean, obviously I don't want to be arrested for that because I'm going to take care of it tomorrow. But I decided when I called you back, otherwise I would have called later on in the afternoon or something and said, I'm sorry, I just can't get together with you, and I'll see you in the morning. That's what I would have done. And my wife and I talked about it, and we decided, you know what, this is just too important to put it off. Even if it screws up my life a little bit, Joseph's life is at stake. It's not like it's, it's not like it's, a few days in jail or, whatever it is. His life is at stake, and that's a lot more important than my little shit.
When I tell someone, and you're right, at times we will not always tell the truth, but I do an absolute best. When I can be honest and tell the truth, I will. And I can assure you, I'm not going to come all the way up to Rancho Cucamonga when I've got missing, the whole family missing, to arrest some guy who's trying to help me. And I told you my intention wasn't that, so I just want to let you know.
I really, trust me, I really appreciate it, because I know that you're probably even stepping out on a limb by not. And I really do appreciate it, and I will be taking care of that tomorrow.
We will follow up to make sure that you do, just because I
understand.
I have to do that, but I believe you.
No, that's understandable.
We're in the clubhouse of 11660 Church Street, and it's, what's the name of the clubhouse?
Homecoming.
Homecoming.
They should, if they're local, they should know where Homecoming is. This is the most popular complex around.
And you're Rancho Cucamonga PD? Oh. And you know my sister? And that's awesome. Okay.
I wrote down some notes before, earlier, so that well, I just wanted to put it up while you were talking to me. I could.
Last saw Joseph Thursday around noon.
And that is
Thursday would have been.
They just come to the clubhouse and coordinate on meeting down.
Correct.
Clubhouse. It's part of the pool room.
I'm sorry, I'm reading. That's Saudi Arabia and Paul Mitchell. Saudi Arabia and Paul Mitchell job. This is one of them. This is the Saudi.
You guys do a lot of calls for a company called Saudi Arabia?
No, in Saudi Arabia.
In Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, we're shipping them to Saudi Arabia.
Oh my gosh.
And we do all the big water features for the Paul Mitchell studios, all of their corporate offices.
Okay.
So we were going over that, and we were going.
Where were you guys on Thursday?
Okay, what was your name again?
Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
And he bought lunch there.
L-E-N-U-W.
6 blocks from here.
Where did you compare to the Wendy's?
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Starbucks, Wendy's.
Right in the complex. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stop answering your phone.
Okay, that's it. We got 3 DNA kids coming.
Okay. Can I explain to him what we were
3 DNA kids?
3.
Oh,
They're 3 too.
I explained to him what we were doing, and I let him know, and I don't know if you want to go over it again.
Yeah, I need to just, for the tape slip, because I'm going to interview you, I want you to know, and I'm sure she's already told you, we are fully aware of your felony warrant.
okay.
We know that it's a commercial burglary warrant.
Yeah.
Our interest in contacting you was this missing person case. We have a family of 4 that's missing, and we need to talk to you. We talked to you on the phone, and we said, we want to talk to you, and you expressed your fear that, I'm afraid that I want to go to jail, and the bottom line is you eventually need to take care of your warrant.
I'm doing it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay. We're walking out of here, and you need to be a good boy and go take care of your warrant.
It'll be taken care of
You're
tomorrow.
not going to be arrested by us. So this conversation is, as you are a civilian, not under custody, free to walk whenever you want, helping out in our missing person case.
I'm here. Okay. I can tell you, just like I told her, I was scared to death that, because as a police officer, you have to zero in on, you have to get this information from me. And if you were going to arrest me, your job would probably be to lie to me anyway, to get me to sit down with you. So I understood that. Well, you know what I'm talking about. I understood that when I called her back. My wife, and I'll tell you what I told her, my wife and I decided that my little bullshit with this felony warrant is a lot less important than Joseph and his family. And that's why I called her back and I said, I gotta see you. I can't put this off, because if I put it off for a day, and then something that I can tell you could have found him, and I find out later that that extra day screwed it up, I mean, I've got to live with it, and I'm not prepared for that. So Joseph was one of my best friends, and obviously I'm my business associate, and it's not something I want to live with. So
Good. Glad we're on the same page. You got the eye design?
Yes, and I'll give that to you. It's right here. 525 Clyde Bank, CLYDE, Bank Avenue. Can you do my writing?
What's this?
That's office phone.
Oh, office. Work.
Sorry.
I design, pretty much me entirely. This address is Metro Sheet Metal. That's the people that I use to do most of my work.
Okay.
Just so you know. I mean, all the work gets done there, so in answer to your question, yes, Joseph has been there a couple of times. Once to meet with Dave and once to see one of the big waterfalls that was going out. And we took pictures and video of it, because we take pictures and video before they beat on ships. So he's been there twice.
Okay.
He also gave me some notes that I was starting to read. So I don't know if you want to take a listen to me about these.
Oh, and we talked about this.
Yeah, and that's why I did it real quick.
I saw Joseph Thursday around noon. Thursday, which day?
Thursday the 4th.
Okay. Went over Saturday. Is it Saturday?
No, sorry. Saudi Arabia and Paul Mitchell. I abbreviated it because
Those are accounts.
that's two projects that we're in the middle of. We had to go over them and make sure all the specs were right, where the different electricals coming out.
Where'd you see him?
At Chick-fil-A.
In the same complex we use the restroom at the Wendy's.
Okay.
Right. He met me at Chick-fil-A and he bought lunch there.
Was Mike there?
Mike.
His brother?
No. The only time I've met Mike is at the wedding and very briefly at Gianni's, I think it was Gianni's birthday party. And that was really brief because Summer and him kind of clashed, and Joseph's mom and Mikey left fairly early in that birthday party because they were, Summer tends to have she's very verbal, and
Don't candy coat, you're not the first person who's talked to us.
okay, and Mikey is also verbal. She said something about Mikey's wife, I think, and so it was that me meeting him there was even brief. I talked to him more in the last week than I've ever talked to him. I mean, I just briefly knew him.
Something about Mike's life?
Yeah. Mikey is, well, you met Mikey. He's very,
I've talked to him a couple times.
very excitable. That's the way I see it.
How'd you know I met Mikey?
Well, I'm sure that you're interviewing everybody. Yeah, Mikey is extremely excitable, extremely. Joseph talks about him all the time, about the fact that him and Summer couldn't get along. And I think the first time Mikey met Summer, he called her, starts with an S too, Joseph's ex-wife. Called her by Joseph's ex-wife. Heather. Summer. Well, it sounded like it anyway.
I've heard this Summer.
Okay, and
I think Mike told us that.
Mike told us.
yeah, okay. So that made my meeting Mike fairly brief because it was at that birthday party, I think, that happened. And they clashed, Mom and Summer, Joseph's mom and Summer clashed, and they left. So I didn't really get I didn't have any conversations with him, shook his hand, and that's about it, at the wedding and at the birthday party. And I think it was Gianni's birthday party, but I'm not, it may have been Jay's, I don't know.
Let's finish this thing. And payments to Metro, got checks on, went over when to write. I don't remember when to write.
When to write the checks.
Okay.
And then talk.
Then came about QuickBooks Online. I decided to delete and start QuickBooks Pro 2010. Credit card for purchasing.
QuickBooks. He gave me the credit card number.
Which credit? Do you know his credit card number?
I did the QuickBooks Pro, and I threw the credit card. All I needed it for.
He just wrote it down?
Yeah, he just wrote it down. So you'll see on one of his whatever credit card, because I don't even remember which one it was. I don't think it was Visa. I think it was.
Do you remember what bank?
I have no idea.
And when did you do that? Was it prior to February 4th?
No. It was 2, 3, or 4 days after February 4th that I actually bought the QuickBooks. Joseph and I sat down and talked about the QuickBooks because Summer didn't know how much money Joseph actually made, and she never did. And one of Summer's biggest problems is credit cards. I mean, she spends a lot of money. She goes to Ross all the time, things like that. So it's a big thing. It had become a big thing with Joseph, not letting her know exactly how much money he's making, because when she knew how much
money does he make? Do you know?
I know by what we do. He does very well with the custom. I don't know what he does with production waterfalls. I have no idea, because I don't do any production waterfalls.
What do you know he makes?
I'll show you. I'll make that easy. I do virtually all of Joseph's custom waterfalls. So there's a few of them that I don't do, but it's pretty rare. One second here. This is Joseph's and mine. Sorry for it being so small, that's the way it printed. This is our running tab of all of our entire business since the beginning of last year. Okay. So at the bottom of these, let's see, jobs total 297,000. So 156, about $150,000 between him and I in profit. No, I would say probably over 100,000 of that is profit, more than likely. He buys pumps, some lights and things like that. He does the shipping, which costs, depends on the waterfall, between $200 and $600 per waterfall. Anyway,
so you're telling me that 100,000 was profit out of that split between you guys, or?
Oh no, that's him.
That's his money.
Yeah, I make 65%. If Joseph sells a waterfall for $10,000, he pays me $6,500. He keeps $3,500. He makes $3,500 on every. He makes 35% pretty much across the board. That's the way the math comes out. And that's
because he's owner of the business, has the website, and makes all the contacts and sales.
Contacts and sales, and he does all the shipping. So, but 35% it's a pretty big number when you're doing.
Because that's pure profit. 65% is on you. And
yeah, I got a lot of. I have to manufacture the waterfall. I have to buy all the stainless and the glass.
So the less your cost, the more your profit. Is basically how you're
saying that.
Well, if you have a fixed rate of 65%, whatever your manufacturing cost is, the residual is your profit.
Yeah. Well, basically, if if I make, let's say, I make $6,500 on a $10,000 waterfall, it'll generally cost me, as a matter of fact, I just did a bid on one.
You don't have to show me the details.
Well, I just did a bid on this one right here. This is 2 waterfalls at $9,500 to $10,000, okay? It's going to cost me $2,500 to $2,750 per waterfall to just the basics, to buy
Material.
Yeah, just the basics, and then I have to pay to have it produced. So by the time it's all done, a $10,000 waterfall makes me $1,500 to $1,800. So, which is still good for me because now I don't do a whole lot of the hands-on stuff. I was doing everything. I was building every waterfall all myself, and I was dying. You know, that's what gave me a heart attack. Actually, it was because we got really busy last year, and we were just cranking.
What's Dan's role?
Dan is the webmaster. He actually, to the best of my knowledge, he owns part of Earth Inspired Products. Joseph was buying him off. Him and Joseph kind of had they weren't real happy together. Or Joseph wasn't real happy having to pay him so much.
Do you know what he paid?
I have no clue. I have no clue. Joseph didn't tell me a whole lot about it.
Have you, Joe, and Dan all lived in the same apartment at one time at the beach? Did you?
Oh, no, I've never met Dan.
Oh, you've never met him?
No, I've never met Dan. The first time I talked to Dan was a week ago or a little less, or when all of this started. Dan called me and said, "Hey, dude, what are we going to do?" I said, "I don't know. I don't have any access to, Joseph's emails. I don't have any access to any of this. I can't help him." And so Dan said, "Well, I can send you any pertinent emails if you can follow up with them. Any complaints, any problems with customers, can you try to deal with them so that when Joseph comes back, at least we've made an effort to, get this stuff taken care of."
What date was that? Do you know?
All of this is kind of blending in together. This is a guess, but I think it was somewhere 9th or 10th, maybe 11th, something like that. I'm not sure.
Just to go.
So on the 9th, 10th, or 11th,
I'm in the mouth of it.
Dan called you?
Yeah, I think he called me.
Okay. Or did you call him?
I don't remember calling him, and I wouldn't have had his number, I don't think. It's possible that I got his number from Joseph's mom, but I don't think she would have had it. So he probably called me. It's more than likely he called me. It's kind of I'm not positive. We ended up making contact because Dan was concerned and wanted to know.
Sure, it's your 3 business.
Yeah, I mean,
different roles, but together you make a business.
yeah, and
Who else works in that business? Anybody, or is it just you 3?
well, Joseph owns Earth Inspired Products. Dan runs the website. Dan, I believe, owns the website. Joseph was buying the website from him, and I know for a fact that Joseph only owed him $2,000 more, and it was paid off. And then he was only going to be paying him to run the website instead of paying him a percentage of sales. Okay? That's the extent that I know about Dan. As far as my role, I met Joseph. He actually contacted me to start building custom waterfalls 2.5, 3 years ago. And I started building his custom waterfalls, and I'm still doing it now, today. And I I don't have really anything to do with earth-inspired products. I have my own, I manufacture waterfalls. You know, I had my own line of waterfalls, my own, everything. Joseph got me more deeply into the custom ones. And he does all the sales. Basically, I mean, yeah, we're partners in getting waterfalls done, and and we make money. But he owns Earth Inspired Products. I own I Design, and he buys the waterfalls for me, pays me for them, and that's pretty much the extent. I knew a lot of Joseph's. A lot of his finances and stuff, because I probably made 75% of his income, and we were working so damn close together. I mean, I would buy lights and pumps and things like that with his credit cards, and we were just kind of commingling with the businesses, because as a matter of fact, this
You don't have any of his credit cards here?
I do not.
Or no access?
Oh, God, no.
Do you know what banks he has credit cards
Please do tell me.
I really don't. I mean, when I bought the lights and stuff, when he said, yeah, get those ordered, here's the credit card number, I'd write his credit card number down, and then,
Do you have any records of it anymore?
I don't, because once, he always, I know this, he always used different, he
In the center of the complex?
no, this is right at the front.
This is right at the front.
Yeah, there's no other,
Which page is that?
You can be right back.
Yeah.
I'll just go over whatever we talk about.
No. It should be over there.
Let me finish this, because we kind of see where each other around.
yeah.
So he would give you credit cards, and you're starting to tell me he used different banks.
Well, Joseph had like, I don't know, I would guess 8 or 10 credit cards that he used back, different ones for different things, like his PayPal he used for some things. He had a Visa that he used for some things, a Union Bank.
Union Bank Visa. Don't know, you just know he may have had a Union Bank account.
Well, I know he has a Union Bank account. There's no question.
Okay.
There's no question about that.
Okay.
Because all of the checks to me were from Union Bank.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Definitely have a checking account. I'm not sure about the credit card.
I don't know about the credit card. I don't know where his credit cards came from.
Okay. Any other banks you can remember that he did?
He used to bank with Wells Fargo, I think. He switched to Union Bank, I think, when he split with his dad. Because he had a bunch of accounts with his dad. They were kind of together with his business at the beginning, because Joseph didn't have any credit.
Why didn't he have any credit?
He just, like 7 years ago when he started this business, or actually I don't even think it was that long, he just didn't have the credit, or, to get like a PayPal account, and, to get this stuff, a merchant account and stuff like that. And his dad and him, or he went to his dad to put it together. And then after a while, Joseph's credit got better and better and better, and he eliminated his dad on everything.
When did he eliminate his dad on everything?
It wasn't that long ago. I would guess a year. That's my guess, but I'm not sure, because he was talking about it. Because, matter of fact, he was just talking about his dad calling him about somebody looking to take money from him on Earth Inspired.
Somebody was looking to take money from Joseph.
Joseph's dad. And Joseph's dad called Joseph.
Someone called Joseph and said your dad is
No, Joseph's dad called him.
Joseph's dad called Joseph.
Because I was sitting there, I know this, and Joseph would talk to me about it afterward. Joseph's dad called him and said that there was some kind of bad debt. I don't know what it was. He didn't go into that. And that they're taking him to court.
The dad has a bad day?
Right. The dad. And he was going to court, and they were going to be putting a lien on his accounts, and he was pretty sure of it. And so he called Joseph because he was afraid that his name was still on some of the Earth Inspired Products accounts. And he was afraid that they would, because from what I gather, Joseph's dad doesn't have any money, so they can't, you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. But his dad was afraid that they would try to get money from his accounts, from Joseph's accounts, because at one time they were both on the accounts, and he was a signer and everything.
So how recent do you think that all went down?
Well, that was just 3 or 4 weeks ago that Joseph talked to his dad about that.
Okay.
But I think Joseph and his dad separated their business part. I think it was about a year and a half ago, maybe. I remember him talking about it, but it wasn't really much of my business. So
you've done business with Joseph for about 2.5 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Did you know him before you did business with him? And you met when he called you, or was it computer, or?
Yeah, he actually. Yeah, he called us and wanted some. We were manufacturing a production. We were manufacturing a production waterfall that he was interested in, and then he had a big V-shaped waterfall that he couldn't find anybody else to do, and he heard that I'm pretty good at the customer and coming up with ways of making things happen. So he ended up calling me from some referral, I don't even know who, but he called me, and from that day on, I started doing a lot of his custom, and then we just went from there.
And in the last 2.5 to 3 years, I mean, obviously you have a business relationship. Were you also friends, or was it?
Very good friends. I think I told you, up until the 4th, and you can probably even check mine his phone, up until the 4th, I can't remember a day. I mean, I'm sure has been days that I haven't talked to him, but I can't remember a day that I haven't talked to him. And almost every day, 10 to 15 times, almost every single day for the last at least 2 years. I mean, Joseph talks a lot, and I mean, we were on the phone. I mean, I had thousands of minutes every month. I had to change my phone plan because I talked to him so much. So,
and February 4th was the last time.
Absolutely the last time I talked to him. The last time I talked to him was on there. The last time I talked to him, he left here, went home. Right.
And what time was that?
I can't remember the exact time, but it was middle afternoon. Maybe
lunch, or
he bought lunch. Yeah, he bought lunch there.
Okay.
I think he got there sometime just after noon. Okay. He emailed me from home. I got the email that he emailed me from home. I think at 10:30 something.
On that night?
No, that morning.
Oh, 10:30.
Yeah.
Did he say whether he had talked to Michael at Chick-fil-A or
No, he didn't. No. As far as I know, the only person that Joseph saw Thursday at Chick-fil-A, well, I know for a fact the only person he saw at Chick-fil-A is me. There was nobody else.
Did Michael say he had lunch with him at Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
On Thursday?
Yeah.
At what time?
Lunch.
Maybe it was before. Did he eat with you?
No.
Okay, tell me how, when you arrived, was he there?
No.
Did you get there
This is
first?
down in Rancho Cucamonga.
Correct. Who got there first? You or him?
Me.
You got there first?
Yeah, because he called me and said, where do you want to eat?
Okay.
And I said, I like Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
Just like I was telling you where the Starbucks was, told him where it was, and I got there, I went over and got a Starbucks coffee, and then went to Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
10 minutes later, Joseph got there. Mike, there's no way Mikey had lunch with Joseph I know that it was the 4th. It was Thursday.
Why didn't Joseph come up here?
To go over Paul Mitchell, Saudi Arabia.
That's what you're putting here.
Right. Paul Mitchell,
Saudi Arabia,
Paul Mitchell, and there was and the payments to Metro and the payments to me. We just had to go over all kinds of money stuff. And matter of fact, this is
Well, why did he need to face to face with you? Was it physically checks or?
Yeah, there were physical checks that I was giving to. Matter of fact, Dave, the guy I just called, he's very concerned now because we gave him the checks back on the 4th or 5th, and he was having a problem with his checking account.
Who was?
Dave.
What's Dave's last name, Jim?
I don't know.
Okay,
I just know him by Dave. Sorry.
that's okay.
He owns Metro Sheet Metal, so that's
And where's Metro, is that in Massachusetts?
that's the difference.
But it isn't so far. Is this something?
Well, I want to find out if his checks have gone through, that's part of
No.
the national chronology. If they haven't gone through, that's important.
No, they haven't gone through because he didn't deposit them.
Joe didn't deposit them.
Dave didn't deposit. No, Joseph was paying Dave.
Oh, I got it backwards.
Yeah, there's a $1,600.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
I thought, okay.
no, he just voiced concern to me today because I was shocked.
Because he has checks.
He has checks, and he goes,
That are legitimate.
yeah, and he goes, oh my God, what do I do with these checks? And I said, excuse me, dude, what are you talking about? And he said, the checks that we got, it was a $1,600 and some dollar check and a $250 check. And I said, you got those like, the 4th or 5th. And he goes, oh, I haven't deposited them. He had a stack of a bunch of checks that he hadn't deposited because he was having a problem with the credit card, whatever his account was, he was having a problem with. He goes, what do I do now? And I said, I don't know. I said, I'll have to when I talk to Joseph's mom, I'll have to find out if it's okay for you to deposit those because it was my opinion that more than likely they're going to put a freeze on all of his assets. I said, you're not going to be able to cash those now. So I said, just hold on to them until I talk to Joseph's mom and you guys. So he's able to checks. Wasn't that 1,600 and something and 250?
And what were they for?
They were for crating, installation of some electrical lights, plumbing.
Let me stop to take there, and we'll take our afternoon recess, about 15 minutes. We'll see everyone back in about 15 minutes.